Kyle Hiersche. I am the host, and today we're going to be answering some more questions. Love everyone's questions coming in. Go ahead and drop any questions you have there in the live chat. You can also send me any DMs at Kyle Hiersche or at Founding Without Funding. Shoot us a DM with your question, and we will answer it on the show. So first off, Founding Without Funding, the principle of the book, the course, and the podcast here is to start your business as soon as possible with what you have, that you do not need investors or funding necessarily to get your business started with the tools, the technology, and the ways that you can do things today. It's just not needed. So that's why we talk about getting out there, starting your business, getting it going, and doing that with the tools and means that you have without waiting on investors or waiting on funding or even waiting on strategic business partners. You have everything you need to do what you need to do now to get started. And that is the key. So go ahead and drop any questions you have there in the live chat. And I will go ahead and answer them. I got some questions here lined up first from that have been sent to my DM. So first question here is from Alyssa. She's asking, is there such a thing as starting too small, or do people just say that because they're too impatient? I don't think there's such a thing as starting too small. I think starting is the key. I think, kind of the opposite, right? Starting is the major key there, is just going. And so starting too small doesn't really exist. I think starting too big definitely exists. And I think that's what a lot of people try to do. They think they're going to do everything before they launch, or they think they're going to get some big investment and have everything planned from A to Z before they launch. But really, you're supposed to start too small, which is just start. Whatever it is you're thinking about, whatever it is you're trying to do, go ahead and start it. And that's what we talk about in Founding Without Funding. Next question here is from Brandon L. What's the first sign that somebody actually has a real business, not just a side project? Well, if you're somebody who has a 9 to 5 and you have a business on the side, kind of sounds like what this question is kind of when do you quit your, 9 to 5 so that your side hustle turns into a real business? Or when do you know that your side hustle is a real business so you can quit your 9 to 5? One and the same, right? Well, I would say the best judge of it that you can actually look at on paper would be money, right? Is your side hustle making more than your current job? And so when it comes to like that aspect of it, quitting a job to work full time on your business, that's the most concrete evidence is my side hustle now making as much or more than my regular job? And if so, then it's probably time to switch over if that's what you're looking to do. So I wouldn't say that there's a sign that you have a quote unquote real business, instead of a side hustle, and make the judgment that way. I would look at it on paper and say, okay, I have a great side hustle, could be a great business, or maybe it is a great business, but the money I need for my monthly budget, is it being met or exceeded by that side hustle? And then you can let your regular job go. That would be my advice. Keep in mind, I've never had a job, right? Because I've only had companies, but that would be definitely my advice, is make sure your side hustle is making as much as your regular job, and then switch and focus 100% on your side hustle there, aka your business. Okay, we have a question here from Tiffany. How do you stop second guessing yourself after you've already committed to an idea? How do you stop second guessing yourself after you've already committed to an idea? Well, you've already committed to it. So I would just say, see it through and just make sure that you're looking at the right indicators, right? So you want to, if you're not feeling good about it and it doesn't feel right in your gut once you get started, you don't want to sabotage it in any way, but make sure that you're looking at all the metrics so that as soon as you see that the metrics are telling you something, aka, how the market is responding to it, or how the ads are being responded to, or the conversion rate on the ads that you're getting, or the sales, whatever it is, you want to be looking at the data. So you might be scrutinizing it a little harder when you don't feel that it's right in your gut, if you felt like that was not the best decision. But don't sabotage it. Don't self-sabotage. Just let the data tell you. Let the market tell you. Let the conversion rates tell you. Let the team tell you as they talk to people. They might start unraveling the same thing. Like, when I keep talking to people on sales calls about that product, they kind of feel the same way. And you go, okay, it doesn't really feel right to me. The salespeople are saying it's not really feeling right to them. The conversions aren't working as well. Okay, now it's time to sit down and look at something else. But don't just get a feeling that you misstepped. Look at the data is what I would say, and make your decision from the data. But that's why it's important to make sure to always keep that data, always stay on top of that data, and not just when you get that feeling in your gut, but obviously if you get that feeling in your gut that something may be on the wrong trajectory, you're going to look at it a little closer. But it's important to have that data for every single path, every decision you make, and every product or service that you launch, so that you can make those decisions properly. Okay, question from Mark. Do you think working a job while building a business helps or hurts long-term success? I don't think I don't think most people have a choice, right? I think most people, it's not necessarily something, well, should I have a job while I run my own business? Most people, it's kind of something necessary to have a job to keep paying your bills, and probably investing in your company. Remember, founding without funding doesn't mean that you're not going to need to invest some money yourself, or get a strategic partner to invest with you, or something like that. You're just not going to wait on anybody. You're not going to wait on investing or funding from elsewhere. You can get your customers to pay you. You can sell it before you buy it. You can put up some of your own money with you and your partners, whatever it is. So at the end of the day, you're never going to be able to start and run a business 100% completely with zero investment from yourself. So definitely some people are going to have jobs. I think that's just a choice. Now, obviously working 100% on your business is the best thing you could possibly do for your business, but sometimes it's just not possible, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, do whatever it takes to have the money that you need to have to do what you need to do with your business, and the time. And sometimes that means having a other job, and that's okay. And you just need to know the right time to transition, like we talked about. But there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just I don't, I think for most people it's probably not a choice. I think most people, if they can work full time on their own business at that point, they would. And so I think it's just do what you have to do in the meantime until you can work on your business full time. Okay. A question here from Elena. What's harder, starting from zero or restarting after something already failed? I would say restarting always, because you've got knowledge, you've got insight, you've got probably some of the materials, or you've gone through some of the things. So definitely starting over after something's already failed is easier than starting from zero. Starting from zero, you might have a fresh mind state about it, but you don't know what you don't know yet, right? And so you learn a lot by trying and failing, and that's what you're going to do over and over again as an entrepreneur. So I think definitely it's easier to start over when something goes wrong than it was to start from scratch, because you already have that experience, probably some of the tools, probably some of the insights, maybe even some of the materials that you needed to do whatever it is that you were doing. It's usually easier to restart and use that insight, that knowledge, those tools, whatever you have still left over from that first time. All right, let's see here. Hello there, everybody in the live chat. Feel free to drop any questions you have as well there. I got a DM here from Josh who said, how do you tell when feedback is useful versus just noise from people who don't get it? I would say that the feedback that's useful is from customers. I think most of the time the noise that you're talking about, the noise feedback, is not actual customers. And it's funny because I think as founders, and as business people, a lot of the times we get carried away in listening to that noise, which is usually not our customers, when really we should just be focusing on our customers. What are our customers actually saying? What do they think about it? And so I think, the only real feedback you should be listening to are people who have bought the service, or were going to buy the service, or were marketed the service and did not buy it, right? You want the buyers and the people who did not buy, and you want to find out why the buyers bought and why the people who didn't buy didn't buy. Other than that, commentary from third parties and in comments on social media and stuff from people who've never used your service, or all these different things, it's all noise. And it's just crazy because we tend to, I guess as humans, we tend to listen to that noise more than what we should be focusing on. So I would say any noise that you need to block out is anything that's not coming from your customers or your staff. Of course, if you're talking about internal stuff and feedback from your staff, obviously your staff is an amazing source for feedback on everything, not just your products or services, not just how your customers are feeling because they're the ones interacting with them, but also the company as a whole, the culture, your leadership, all that kind of good stuff can be found out through your staff members, through your team members. And so that's very important to listen to them, because they're essentially your eyes, ears, and nose, so to say, of your company. And they're out there talking to the clients on the ground level, typically, or more of the ground level than you. So don't listen to any noise. Just listen to your customers, listen to your team, and focus on building the business and making the sales. That was a great question. Okay, another question here from, from Vanessa. What's the biggest mental shift that happened once you make your first real money in business? So what's the biggest mental shift that happens once you make your first real money in business? I'm I'm not sure exactly how to answer that, but I would say the mind state usually shifts when you actually sell something, right? So if you find something that works, to me, that's where the mind state shifts, right? Of okay, we were trying something, we have this company or this idea or this product or this service, and we've been trying it, and we've been trying to figure out how to do it, how to present it, how to get it to the marketplace, how to sell it, and then once somebody actually purchases it, I think that kind of shifts the mindset of now we're no longer in kind of creator mode, I would say, right? Creating a product or service and seeing if somebody's going to want it. Now we're in execution mode of okay, somebody purchased it, so for one, we need to execute it, and for two, we need to keep going down this path because people are people are purchasing it. So now we need to refine our offer. We need to make sure to get as many people to convert as we can. Then we need to optimize it and increase the profit margins. All that kind of good stuff comes after that. So I would say the biggest mind shifts takes place when it's like, okay, it goes from just an idea to now the marketplace has validated it. Somebody's actually purchasing it. And now we need to shift our mind state to just trying to find something that present it in a way that works to, okay, it did work. Now we need to execute it. And then we need to get it to work more. And then we need to optimize how it's working so that we can maximize the profit margins. And then we can throw fuel on the fire and scale it up. And so I think that's the steps we should be looking for there. That's where the mind state shifts there. Okay. Let's see. Caleb is asking, how do you stay focused when there are 100 different ways you could make money? Let's see here. All right. So Caleb is asking, how do you stay focused where there are 100 ways you could make money? So yes, there's a lot of ways that you can make money. So sometimes it is hard to stay focused, but I would stay focused on what is actually working, what's working in the marketplace. And so if you do have products or service that have already sold, I would focus on those, building those out, improving them, optimizing them, those type of things, right? So anytime you're saying, hey, how do I focus on where to get the money or what money to bring in or whatever it is, focus on what's actually working first before you're going out there and trying to complete new things or create new things. Focus on what you have that's already selling. Focus on, optimizing that, systemizing it more, bringing the cost down so you can bring the margin up and then scaling it up. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to fuel all of the revenue that you're going to need. And at that point, you might be able to start focusing on some different things or newer things. So I would say stick more to what's actually already sold or is selling. That would be my advice. Okay, Monica's asking, is it better to be confident and wrong or cautious and late? Is it better to be confident and wrong or cautious and late? I think probably confident and wrong, in my opinion. I think caution is one of the things that kills most businesses, and not that it kills it by being cautious. It's because caution usually turns into not doing. I would say, right? That's kind of what founding without funding touches on a lot. Is that too much caution makes it so that you either never launch or never fully launch. And I think that's what gives a lot of businesses, kind of that not a fair shot because they were never given a fair shot because of too much caution. So I would say definitely I would rather be, confident and wrong and just get out there and do something and fail with it sooner than be too cautious. And it's not just because being too cautious is the slower route and you're still probably going to fail anyways. And so you might as well get the fail out the way. But also the cautious route usually turns into the no route. It usually turns into being so cautious that it never actually comes around to being done or launched into the marketplace. So to answer your question there, I would absolutely rather be confident and wrong than cautious and right. And I'd rather be wrong and get out there and do it and make those mistakes and actually get through it and make sure that it happens. Because to me, that's the biggest thing is to make sure that it happens. Founding without funding, the reason I came up with it is because I see so many people in that caution stage that never get out of it. And usually that caution stage is, well, I need to make sure I have money to do this and money to do that. And that's what keeps people held up. You don't need money to do all these things. You need your time, your energy, your effort, your ingenuity, think smarter, right? Sell before you buy. These are the type of things you need to be working on, not hoping that someday somebody's going to come and invest in your dream for you, especially when you haven't made any sales yet. Okay, question from Eric. What's one thing founders think is professional that actually just slows them down? I'm not really sure. That's a good question. What's one of the things founders think is professional that actually just slows them down? I would say I don't think this is as relevant nowadays, but I really think usually in office, I think, is what a lot of people who start a business think that they need, that they really don't need, but they think it's more professional looking. And I've done this in the past too. You don't really need an office, but you want a nice office, a professional office, so that people can see that you're doing something legitimate or that you feel like you own a legitimate business. And so I think that's definitely one of the things. Nowadays, not as big of a deal because, everybody's so remote anyways. I don't think that's as big of a dream as it used to be for people, but definitely that's something that I think a lot of people who start a business are like, okay, I'm going to need an office and I need a secretary and we need phone lines and we need all this. I mean, you don't really necessarily need all that nowadays, and I would say it's going to hinder you more than it's going to help you, especially in the beginning. Okay, let's see here. Question from Paula J. How do you know when it's time to say no to opportunities that look good on paper? Well, how do you know when to say no to opportunities that look good on paper? That's just a personal decision, I think. I think as a founder, as you go through and just being an entrepreneur in general, as you go through more and more products, services, businesses, you're going to see that what's on paper really is almost irrelevant. So if you're looking at something on paper and you're saying it looks good on paper, but I don't know whether I want to say yes or no to it not, I would say that the main thing is to get to be able to test it, the MVP, the minimal viable product. Get some way to kind of test it because on paper and in the marketplace are two totally different things. So your number one goal is to try to test something in the marketplace. Now, if that's not feasible for that idea, if it would cost way too much and too much time, energy, resources, all that kind of stuff, that's a different story. But if you're just looking at something on paper and saying, well, I don't know, should we do it or not? The first thing you should be thinking is, can we test it or not? And how can we test it? And how much time or money would that take? Now, I talk about all the time, one of the best things about nowadays is you can test something for $1 a day. And if you use AI properly or have a web team or any kind of graphics team, website team, stuff like that, I mean, it's free to put up a landing page and you can start spending $1 a day to advertise a product, make some ads for it, and put it through your automated sales funnels and see what happens. So I would always be thinking test something. Anytime you see something on paper and say, hey, that looks good, or maybe it doesn't look good, I wonder if it'll work, try it. Try to test it. Obviously, first brainstorm what's it going to take to make the MVP, right? What is it going to take to make the minimum viable product, the minimal version of this that we could get out, put in front of people and see if they'll purchase it. So I would be thinking anytime you're looking at something on paper, think, how can we test this so that I don't have to guess if I made the right decision? I always want to let the marketplace show me whether I'm making the right decision or not, if that's at all possible. Okay. Question here from Drew is, how do you stay consistent when motivation keeps coming and going? I think you don't always. I got to be honest. Sometimes you're not as motivated. You just have to keep going. And I think if you've really embraced the entrepreneur, the being a founder, being an entrepreneur, being a business person, then at the end of the day, you know that it's going to be like that sometimes. And yeah, some days you are defeated by the end of the day, and sometimes you say, "Wow, I can't." I got to go to bed. I can't even work anymore. I'm drained and defeated. But then you wake up the next day and you do it all again, and you love what you do, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you exactly thought you were doing. I have plenty of businesses where I never thought I would be in that business, but if it's what you want to do, then it's something that you love. And especially if it's something you created, then it's really something you love. A lot of people say, how can you work so hard and so long? That's just crazy to me. Well, it's different if it's yours, if it's something you created, you've built, or even just helped create, help build. There's just something to it where it doesn't, a lot of people say, well, it doesn't feel like work. Well, of course it feels like work, but it feels like work that you want to do as opposed to work that you don't want to do. It's still a lot of hard work. It's way more hard work than any other profession, really, but it's work that you are interested in wanting to do. And then the upside is hopefully it's all very rewarding in the end, because it's definitely not rewarding in the beginning. We all know that. But the key is that it's going to be rewarding in the end if you put in the work, put in the effort, and get your ideas out there to the market, get it to respond to those ideas, optimize them, systemize them, raise the profit margin, scale them up, and create a successful business out of it. Okay. Question here from Samantha B. What's something people should expect to feel emotionally in the first 90 days of starting their business? Defeat, for sure. Get ready to feel that. Hopelessness, being lost. And these are all things that will get out of the way in the first 90 days, right? And then it's not that you won't feel them again, but you'll be used to feeling them in this situation. So I would say a roller coaster of emotions is going to happen in your first 90 days of running your business. Just stay the course. There's plenty of motivation. There's plenty of great speakers and podcasts and courses and all kinds of stuff out there for you to do. There's never been more great information from great business people. One of the things to just touch on here that I think everybody should do, anybody that's looking to be in business for themselves or just wants to make more sales or be more positive, is to go look at who you're following on social media. You probably need to shake up your algorithm a little bit, and you might even want to make a new account to where you only deal with a certain algorithm on that account. So I'll give you an example. If your personal Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, you scroll on it throughout the day. By now, it's probably got all kinds of different little pockets of algorithms that it's feeding you. And what I would do is just intentionally start going to the pages like the great, speakers. I don't know, whoever it is you follow. It might be, Gary Vee, or maybe it's, maybe you're in real estate and it's, somebody on the real estate side. Maybe it's Kevin O'Leary, or it's, whoever it is. I would start following those people intentionally, watching their videos intentionally, and really feeding that into your algorithm, and just start looking at those business videos, those positivity videos, those motivational videos. And like I said, maybe even make another page to where that's the first thing you do when you wake up, is scroll that page where you're following all the business moguls, all the motivational speakers. Maybe follow the accounts of, Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and these old school type speakers, just all this stuff. And what'll happen is when you scroll, when you're spending that time scrolling, which we all do, we all scroll. And when you're doing that, it's going to be positive. It's going to be positive stuff. It's going to be business stuff. It's going to be things that are actually bringing value to you, as opposed to quote unquote doom scrolling. And so I would definitely recommend that to a lot of entrepreneurs, is take some time to either reset your algorithm on your, personal Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is that you usually use to scroll through all day. So either replace that algorithm by intentionally, specifically seeking out, liking, and commenting on those those positive business type things, so they feed more into your algorithm, or just create a whole new account that's kind of like your business account or your entrepreneur account or whatever it is, and just basically, hey, I'm only following accounts on this that are positive, that are business, that are motivational, TED Talk type things. And so that all that comes across in that feed is good, positive energy. I would definitely recommend that. And I think that helps keep you motivated. It helps keep you consistent, and it helps, that emotional roller coaster in your first 90 days of business as well, for sure, to kind of just have that guide there for you to keep you, pointed north, I guess I should say. Okay, let's see here. A question from Nick A. How do you stop rewriting your goals every month and actually stick to something? It's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go about goal setting. I personally like Jim Rohn's goal setting advice. You could look that up. He has some charts out there and stuff. He's a little bit more old school, but there's a lot of different ways to set goals. So that's a hard question to ask, but definitely you should be setting goals. You should be keeping them. They should be, on some kind of Google Doc or something you can access from your computer and your phone, and you should be looking at them and checking them. Now, some people do more long-term goals. Some people do more short-term goals. Some people use their goals also as like a checklist of actual day-to-day activity to be done as well. So there's different ways to do it, but you should always be keeping goals, and rewriting them is not a problem because goals change. I would say that you want to try to have some kind of powerful, main goal to keeping the eye, that you're keeping your eye on. But goals change significantly. So there's no problem with rewriting your goals. Just make sure that you're working towards them instead of kind of just writing them down and then disregarding them. But they should be written down somewhere, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with changing them, which is great to have it on a Google Doc. Then it can be in your phone and on your computer, and you can change it on either one, and it updates on the other. And so, there's definitely nothing wrong with changing goals. Just make sure you're writing them down and keeping them updated, and make sure that you're using them as opposed to just writing them and putting them All right. Last couple questions here. Question from Logan. How do you know when you're pivoting versus just running away from discomfort? I would say that the market will tell you, right? The market will tell you if you're just running away from this idea because you're scared or if you're pivoting for a reason. And I don't just mean with sales, I mean with feedback as well, with conversion percentages of how many people are looking at the ad versus clicking it, how many people clicked it versus actually filled out the whole form, how many people filled out the form as opposed to who actually went forward and made the payment. And then talking to the people who purchased, why did they purchase it, people who didn't, why did they not? Those are the things that are going to determine that. And they're not only going to determine if you're going to pivot, they're going to determine how you're going to pivot and where you're going to pivot to. So I would just really try to get out of the mind state of like, when should I do this? When should I do that? And focus on, do I have enough data from the market yet to tell me if I should do this or do that? Focus on the data. Okay. Question here from Priya. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that right. Question from Priya. What's one belief about money that holds new founders back what's one belief about money that holds new founders back the most? I think the belief about money is just that they need a bunch of money to get started. I think that's what holds people back the most. You don't need money to get started. You might need a little bit of money, but it could be your own money or it could be a customer's money if you set it up right. It's going to take a little bit of money, but you can finesse it to where it's very little or almost none. And so I think that's the biggest thing. Founding without funding. It's literally why I came up with this, because at the end of the day, so many people could build a great business or do have a great business that they're starting to build or want to build, and they think that they need money, and you don't actually need money to do it. You're going to need some kind of money, but you don't need other people's money. So you don't need to wait for money. I think there's so many people who could have amazing businesses. They're great people who could do it. They have great ideas that could work, but they just need to get out there and do them. So Founding Without Funding is about doing exactly that, getting out there and making it happen without waiting on investors or third parties or business partners or funding. Just start and get out there and start making sales. And guess what? If you get out there and you start making sales, no matter how little, now you're in a position where you can get an investment, ironically. And then you probably won't need it or want it because you're already making sales. So it's kind of ironic in that way. But that's the key, to get started and not sit around waiting for funding. Okay, last two questions here. Matt is asking, how do you mentally deal with slow growth when you're doing everything right? Just keep going. Keep getting feedback from the market, from your customers, and keep trying to improve. I mean, you're not going to be able to speed anything up that can't be sped up. So, don't be greedy in that term of like, well, I just have to speed up, speed up, speed up, speed up. Feel free to do the work to speed it up, though, right? Feel free to dig in. And instead of saying, hey, we need to speed this up, I want to just do this radical idea, why don't you spend that day instead calling customers who didn't purchase the product or service and ask why? That can definitely speed things up. You want to speed up scaling, figure out why they're not buying so that you can increase your conversion rate 1%. If you increase your conversion rate 1%, you could double your business, right? It depends on what percentage you're working with at the start, but we're talking about very low, paid percentages here. And so that just changing it by 1% can drastically change your business if you change your paid conversion rate by 1%. And so I would focus less on trying to speed things up by like hoping and thinking of doing like other things or accelerating it somehow. I would focus on increasing your conversion of what you already have going on, and the type of things that you can do that are providing more value, speaking to customers, figuring out what they're looking for, figuring out what kind of maybe like specials they would want you to run or what you could include with your product that would make them purchase it more or keep it longer, whatever the case is. So I think a lot of people, when they want to spend a day on speeding things up or figuring something else out, some kind of grand plan, I would say maybe spend that day calling your customers and seeing their feedback, talking to your staff members, to your team, and getting their feedback and the feedback that they've been getting from employees. If you spend a day doing that, your mind's going to be in a whole different place than when you just sat down and said, hey, things are starting to go pretty good, but I want to really pour fuel on the fire and I'm getting impatient here. Like instead of spending that day trying to find that grand scheme that's going to allow you to speed it up somehow, spend that day getting feedback from your customers and your team members. And I promise you, you're going to have a whole other slew of things on your plate that you A, need to deal with because you uncovered some things that need to be dealt with, and B, that you could be doing to actually make a difference instead of just kind of uh, grandizing in your mind of like, well, if I could just think of some great idea. Your customers already have the idea for you. Just call them, get in touch with them and ask them, and they'll tell you. And they're real. They're not just you hoping and thinking your idea was a good idea. Your customers already have the idea. You just need to reach out and get it from them. Okay, last question here from Keisha. What's the hardest part of success that nobody really warns you about? I don't know. That's probably a question for people more successful than me, right? Uh, I'm not sure. I think when your business is successful, it definitely is something that you know is it creates happiness for sure if you were the one that built it, but it also creates stress. So I think that's something to keep in mind. The more successful your business gets, the more stressful it's going to be. And if you have not, kind of delegated properly and got a team there to help and assist that can actually execute some of the things, then it's going to be kind of a prison, right? You can get kind of trapped in your own business. The last episode, we talked about a book that I read called Build a Business, Not a Job. And that definitely freed me up from being that kind of prisoner in my own company of I really had a job at my company. I wasn't actually necessarily an entrepreneur that can start a business and grow it and also do other things. And the business can run with or without me, or at least run, temporarily without me for a few weeks vacation or whatever it is. Not that I've ever gone on a few weeks vacation, but you get the point there. So it needs to be something that, you're aware of, that the more successful you get, it's great, but it also can be a trap when you're the founder of the business. You can kind of imprison yourself inside of your own business. And the way to help with that is to get a great team and delegate as much as possible, and not try to take the shortcut of just doing everything yourself. Take the long way of documenting how you do everything yourself and then training someone how to do that. And then it's a lot easier from there on. But it is a longer road, right? It's easier to just say, oh, I know how to do this, so I'm just going to do it. That's the easy way. The harder way is I know how to do this, so I'm going to write down how to do it step by step. Then I'm going to tell you and train you how to do it step by step so that you can then do it. And then I don't have to anymore. And so it's a longer thing to do right then, but in the long run, it's going to really help you. So you got to take that extra step there for sure. All right, with that being said, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. You can go ahead and send us any questions to my DM at Kyle Hiersche or at Founding Without Funding. More than happy to answer your questions. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.